Welcome to Leadership, the Secret Sauce with coaches Dave Lipsky and Matt Dodson, where we are delving into the realms of leadership and coaching. Join us as we sit down with remarkable leaders and coaches, uncovering their unique insights and strategies that make them truly exceptional. We'll explore the question, what is your secret sauce, and when and how did you know? Unveiling the hidden ingredients behind their success. Are you ready? Before we begin, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Character Matters Coaching and Consulting, where they believe that your character is the compass guiding you through life's journey. Whether you're facing personal or professional challenges, they are dedicated to helping you discover and strengthen the core values that define who you are. So in today's episode, we're going to discuss the secret sauce with our guest coach, Dr. Sheila Boysen-Rotelli. We're just going to call her Sheila from here, and we're going to discuss the ins and outs of what makes sort of Sheila a great coach and offer listeners a special look inside. So be sure to listen all the way through. We do actually have something we want to offer you at the end. So, Dave?
Sheila, it's so good to meet you. Welcome to the podcast. And we like to kick things off just to reconnect with purpose, like why Matt and I do this podcast, which is really to help extraordinary coaches and leaders become even more extraordinary coaches. And we do a check-in. We start off with a check-in on your energy and focus level on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high. And then we'll kick into introductions. So your energy level, Sheila, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be?
And even you threw focus in there too. So energy and focus. I love thinking about the combination. And candidly, I was probably at a 6 about 45 minutes ago, which is low for me. I think I've ratcheted it up to like a 7, even an 8 with the help of some caffeine. But one of my new identities apparently is a theater mom. My 5th grader has his debut opening night tonight in the musical Mary Poppins. And so I was admittedly up until 2 a.m. finalizing sewing a costume that he will be wearing in this musical Mary Poppins opening night. So a little bit tired, but the energy is only increasing. Having the opportunity to start connecting with you two.
I love that. And I love Mary Poppins.
I have a question. Like, I want to know. I want to know what role he's playing.
If I could tell you a 30-second funny story. My son is, I don't know where he comes from. I'm so proud of this kid, but first year that they could be in the musical, he says, I want to do this. I want to solo. I want to sing. I want to part. He's never done this before. So as a parent, you're thinking, in the back of my head, I've got that little bit, how's this going to go? And then on the outward, you got this, buddy, go get it. So he does the tryouts. He comes home. He was trying out for Bert, which I think most of us who know Mary Poppins know that's a key role. He came home, said it went great. The casting came out, walks in the door and he says, Mom, Dad, I got a solo. And my husband and I, Graham, are like, Finn, what is the part? He goes, John Wilkinson. And my husband and I both at the same time go, that's amazing. And then my son walks out of the room. My husband and I turn to each other and we go, who the heck is John Wilkinson? So I still don't know. Tonight I'm going to find out.
That is awesome. And you know what, when your son came to you, it gave me very fond memories of my kids. And in my mind, what came up was, we teach people fear. And imagine if we didn't teach people fear.
Imagine. This is very much on my mind, Dave, not just in the context of coaching, but I'm going to have a very real lived opportunity with my own children this summer when the double cicada emergence comes out in Illinois. And I will be hiding all of my irrational fear of cicada insects. So I'll let you know how it goes, but real world experiments at play.
I like that. And we are also, I'm upstate New York, an hour north of New York City, and we will be having the double or triple or quadruple cicada orchestra. So I plan to compose music, even though I have no skills in doing that, to the cicadas.
What a way to embrace it. I love it.
And you know what? I just wanted to mention something. You know, like when our kids do something, it really does bring out something in us. Like man, it's fascinating. So way to go to your son on just going bold. I like that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a proud mama, but I do tell all my coaching students, even the leaders I work with, it's amazing how I can live these principles of coaching, really bring these skills, espouse them and teach them. And then my humanity and candid
Mm,
vulnerability, the place I struggle the most is with my own children to
yeah.
bring that with them. Yeah.
I was just going to say, one of our previous guests talks about using their kids as illustrations for leadership, and in a very sort of respectful way, talking about kid challenges, relating it to work challenges, and it seems to be a very provocative way of actually kind of relating, because we're just hmm
It's beautiful.
There's this there's this post I save when my oldest son, now 30, turned 21, and it reads, um, "For years I thought my father was a clown with a PhD, but now I realize he is my spiritual mentor." And anything else that is said, like up until like all the memories of my bad parenting have completely disappeared to ether. I go back to that post, I read it. All
mm.
right, there was a moment in
It's
time,
my drop moment right there.
Mm.
Yes.
right?
Parenting, fantastic. I love when our kids reflect back at us, though, and I mean, sometimes it's reflecting back reminders of where maybe we aren't getting it right. But my oldest, when he was 5, he said to me, I mean, he hears me coaching all the time and coaching leaders. And he said to me one day when I came down the stairs, I must have looked a little stressed. And he goes, Mommy, how are you feeling right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed out are you? And I'm thinking either I have the
Mm.
most emotionally
That
developed
is
child
priceless.
or I have ruined this
Yeah.
one and we still have 2 more that we can fix this with. It was one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, usually that in my house, it's isn't that great? It's followed with, "Don't use that psychological beep 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 at home." That's what I usually hear in the background from somebody. Like it's like, oh my god. So all right, so let's kick
I'll wait
in.
for my message. When my child is 21, I'm going to have my parenting
Yeah.
mic drop moment. I can't wait, Dave.
I am happy to share. If you want, I can send that post to your son. It's up
Send
to
it to
you.
me, please
Yeah,
do. I would love that.
it's so Matt, what's your energy and focus levels?
This whole talk about kids actually has my energy level up, because in a couple weeks my son's coming home, and so we'll have a chance to spend. So I don't know, probably right now it's probably an 8, and my focus, I think, enhanced by caffeine, is probably at that too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have to say today, this conversation is bringing me up to an 8.65. And just Matt, just to let you know, I am on Monday. I'm going to West Point
Mm.
to represent Carry the Load,
Mm.
which is to remember like fallen
Mm.
service heroes. And I was thinking last time I saw Matt, he came to visit
Mm.
me at West Point, and it's
Mm.
right across
Mm.
the mountain where I live.
Very cool.
All right. So let's kick in. So Sheila, just to start with, other than being introduced as this is my mom, Sheila, in a professional setting, what's the headline of the article that introduces you? What does that say?
The headline. I think, the headline, I don't get introduced very often lately, and I have to pay attention more. The headline that I want to live up to would be something along the lines of, this is Sheila. She is human, she is flawed, and she is vulnerable, but she's here in support of building up the energy and the
Mm.
success of everyone in this room. I think that's what I want to live up to.
I love that.
I think that human and vulnerable part is feeling maybe even a little bit more, I don't know, important these days as we talk about all the power and the possibility and the excitement around technology, AI, all these other things coming in to
Yeah.
support and enhance what we do. And so, how we can bring that humanity into our headlines and just in how we show up is feeling particularly, important to think about.
I love that. Vulnerability is so attractive and inviting, and like I think a lot of the Brene Brown's work and writing on that, and it's I keep going back to that because the demands of our environment are, just asking for perfection, or no room to be who you are. So I love that is your introduction. And
We learn so much more from when we're not getting it right. So if we could celebrate that ourselves and have an opportunity to learn from other people too when they're not getting it right, that's so much value.
I love it. We're here to learn. And if you had a walk-on song, or you could have multiple walk-on songs, what would it be for you?
That's so funny. I think I do. I would need to make everyone wait for a good few minutes, because I'd be like, all right, we have 3 that I like, so we're just going to listen to them all and get you hyped up. I don't know, something like that. There is a little bit of a kid influence in here, I do have to admit. Try Everything by Shakira. I love that song. Zootopia, animated movie for those that are not up on their animated movies. I think the other 2 that get me really hyped up would be Rise Up by Andra Day. And actually, while my mother-in-law was going through chemo treatment, that was a song I kept listening to, kind of visualizing her successful coming out on the other end when she did. So that could be a walk-out song. And then I love Unstoppable by Sia. I think that's just a really, really good one. Something about that.
I love.
And then Florence and the Machine. There's probably Florence and the Machine in there too.
Yeah.
Throw that in there.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm thinking there's the Sheila playlist.
Yes. That was not going to be our giveaway at the end of this, but we'll have to think about how we bring that into this.
That is awesome. And also, I also want to call out people. When I watch Zootopia, people don't understand how good the messages are in that movie. It's so good. And every time I'm like, I don't really want to watch it. And then I start watching and I'm like, this is so good.
I love bonding over these kind of things, Dave. Yes, everyone's homework assignment after you listen to this podcast, Zootopia.
I love it. So, Matt, you wanna ask the first question?
Yeah, sure. Sheila, what is your secret sauce? How do you, like, if you think about like what makes you as a coach, besides the humanity, the vulnerability, which is just those are really great qualities. What makes you?
Yeah. So I know this sounds like such a simple question, right? And I think we all should be thinking about this and how we can articulate it in a way that helps and supports others to understand it and maybe even bring more of it in themselves. And for me, it's 3-pronged is where I've settled on in my current iteration of evolution and transformation here. So my secret sauce is a combination of evidence-based practice. That's my, heavy academic hitting side there. Bringing in an integral approach. And then the 3rd prong is around holistic perspective, the whole human being. And I think all of these things have been important to me, even choosing where I was going to get my coach training. And they have evolved and matured, and I've grown in sophistication how I use them. But all 3 of them have been present in how I've shown up just as a human being, probably as I've grown into adulthood, but as I've been developing my career and determining how I want to have an impact and support others. Those are the 3 things. Yeah. So I'd say those are the combination. That's my secret sauce.
And when and how did you know? Like, how did you figure that? Like, is there one that led the way? You're like, oh, the humanity first, or what was it?
Yeah, I would definitely say the academic piece, the evidence-based isn't what led the way. Having an MBA, having a PhD, I'm one of 6 kids. My twin sister and I are the oldest. And my parents are the biggest cheerleaders in my life. And they're part of the reason that I'm as successful as I am is their motivation and their love that has inspired that. And if you ask them when I was a child, of your 6 children, which of them do you think is going to get a PhD? I promise you, maybe I'd be number 5. Likely I was number 6 out of 6 on that list. So this evidence-based academic scholarship piece, being a professor, really diving into appreciating, embracing research, that's definitely something that has come later in life. It wouldn't be something that someone would pick out in my childhood. So I don't think I led with that one, but it's so important to me now, making sure there's that balance in everything that I do. And then I think the integral piece of it is probably what has led and where the other 2 have grown from. just that idea of bringing in multiple perspectives, having multiple interests. When I'm not teaching or leading quality, for a coaching organization, I'm painting or I'm sewing clothes at 2 a.m. for my children's musical performance. But a lot of creativity. I love to use both sides of my brain and challenge just the perception that you can't do that. And I love being curious about what that looks like and inviting that for other people. And that plays into the holistic piece as well, all those different types of things. Yeah. Yeah.
How would we see some of these things in your coaching? Some of those concepts.
Yeah. So, with the evidence-based piece, I think it is because I'm constantly in the space of research and why does this magic of coaching thing work? What is it that is the thread? And how do we not package it so that we say there's only one way to do something or even only a few ways to do something, because there isn't. So I love being open-minded about that. And it's one of the biggest cautions, even when I'm teaching, coaching, and when I'm supporting the ICF with things like the competency development, around being careful not to say that there's only one way. Coaching is an art and a science, and we need to make sure that we keep both of those pieces in there. I think the holistic approach is really tapping into and sometimes challenging myself with that unconditional positive regard that as coaches, are the thing that we really should be inviting ourselves into that space more and more of how do we help someone to feel truly seen and heard in this moment and operating from that place of curiosity about what is it for them? What is it that is going to unlock the next step for them? And being purely curious. And I think that curiosity about the holistic person, that person in front of you, that's what makes coaching magic. That's what makes it different than coming in and giving them some really fantastic sage wisdom and advice, is appreciating how even if there is sage wisdom and advice, it's going to be interpreted differently. It's going to be leveraged differently. It might be needed less by this specific person and everything that's unique about them. And I think the holistic piece is also, really balancing not just the doing, but the being. And so that's been my evolution as a coach. And I see this a lot when I'm training coaches too. We all have to move through that phase first of that conscious, I don't quite get this. This is hard. This is challenging, and being aware of it. And as we move toward that unconscious competence, bringing in not just the doing, being able to let go of the drive of the doing, the fast-paced world that we live in, and being really curious about the being, the thinking, the mindset. Because even if we have an amazing coaching session with someone and they walk away with their 3 steps that they're going to go do, if we haven't invited them into exploration about if the mindset that they're currently holding, the self-talk that they're currently holding, is what is ingraining that behavior that's going on right now, even if they start doing those 3 things, they're going to come back to that default. So I think it shows up in exploring mindsets, in exploring emotion and not being afraid to go there. A little bit of somatic coaching, when that's going to be something that's valuable. So all 3 of these things show up in that balance of the being and the doing, exploring not just what are you going to do, but what is the change in your belief system and your assumptions about yourself that have to happen in order to make that change sustainable.
I love, there's so much in there. And I have to ask a question. In training coaches early on, what are some of the things that you focus on to help them with the areas that you talked about?
I know. It's like, I was just talking about technology before. If we only had that Matrix movie technology where we just hook ourselves up and we have the information, we're good. Every time a new group of coaching students or opportunity to interact with a new group of coaching learner comes up, I feel such a sense of reverence, responsibility in what's the best way to start. And I think some of that's an example of my, humanity and where I need to let go of that a little bit. But when you ask that question, Dave, I think it's so important to start with helping them to define what coaching is. And what I've found is if someone hasn't truly experienced coaching in some way, that's much more challenging. So finding ways for them to, interact with a coach and experience it. At a minimum, listen to lots of different examples of coaching and have, the space to really reflect and be skeptical if they need to be skeptical, ask their questions, be curious. So there's that experiential part that has to happen. And then I think it's also about not introducing a specific model too soon. I think that's where I'm sitting now. And you might see this, Dave, when you start working with new coaches, that's all they want. What's the script? What's the model? I promise I'm not going to just attach myself to it, but I just need to see that. And so it's like that uncomfortable space of having them just kind of learn that there's key skills and competencies in coaching. And if we can just practice those almost where it feels like you're fumbling through it, that's an important part of the process and the learning. Because I've learned that if we introduce a specific model, and there's so many fantastic models, but when they see that too quickly, that becomes coaching to them, not the essence of meeting this human being in front of you where they're at and having that be the focus. So that's the part where I just feel all this responsibility. I love it, and it's exhausting from the responsibility and care piece, right?
And maybe it's even clunky at the beginning. Right? It just feels like wooden in the discussion. And how do I really know? Just listen, like really listen to the coachee. And that's unique, right? And it just feels like, well, there's no script for really listening.
There isn't. I think that the competency or the two things that I try to lead with, and I still don't know that this is 100% right, but it feels right in a lot of the groups that I've been supporting, is first and foremost, something about inviting someone to articulate and really explore what it is that they want. So the goal, I guess, is another way that we could think about this, the agreement, the agenda, all our coaching language. But the gift of inviting someone to just reflect on what is it that you really want. No. What specifically about that is that you really want? How will you know when you get there? What will feel different? What will look different? And then inviting them into thinking about what's most important to you about focusing on this right now. And that's one of those things where then sometimes it transforms, because that's where you uncover, oh, wait a minute, this is the externalized, everyone else is saying I did this, or I've just been holding on that I needed this goal. And once you invite them into exploring, well, what's really important to you about this? Sometimes that's where you really start learning what it is that they want. Just that space of being seen and heard and given the opportunity to be listened to reflect on what you really want. There's something about that. And then the coaching piece is putting aside that advice monster, I think, is what so much of us, hear and talk about. But being in curiosity, learning to ask questions in service of the other person, not in service of us, is another muscle that I think is so important to practice and give feedback on early on. Because as human beings, we're good at asking questions. We're even good at being curious. But it's curiosity through our lens. What's most important to us? If someone says, I really want to have a better relationship with my boss, it's very natural human curiosity to be like, ooh, how bad is it? What's going on with your boss? What's the worst thing that happened? And actually in coaching, we don't need to know any of that, right? We need to know what it is that they want instead. How will it feel when they get there? What's most important to them about that? But not that kind of seeing the car crash and wanting to see how bad it is. That natural human curiosity that's more for us. How do we set aside our own curiosity and tap into curiosity in service of the other person? So gosh, if we could just figure out how to, knock that out in a 45-minute training session, we got this coaching thing figured out.
Maybe a couple of YouTube videos or something like that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. What's come up a lot is in people ask, how do you do that? Right. So how do you choose connection over content? Right. So trying to find that model and saying, this, I can solve for this because I can use this model. Right. Or, I got a goal, move forward without deeper exploring, like the stuff you're talking about. And we've talked about some concepts of what is that mental parking lot that you can put the advice monster, you can put all the models and all those things in and just listen at a deeper level. What does that look like as your brain is operating?
That's exactly it. I mean, I think there's a part where we have to go through, I like Matt's word, clunky. We just have to marinate in the discomfort that this is going to be clunky. because there is another side. And I think as coach practitioners and coach trainers, we know that. We can say that. And we just have to hold that space for them to live in the discomfort, because they might believe us, but until they experience it themselves, they're not going to be able to truly, I don't know, notice it, feel it, live it. But there's something about that parking lot where reminding everyone that the true gift of coaching, the true magic, comes from one human being truly being in connection with another human being, this human-centered piece of it. Even the newest coach who's practicing their skills and they're meeting with a coachee, that coachee might be getting the best gift that they've gotten that day, that week, that month, maybe even a longer period of time, where there's someone who is there fully listening, hearing, and seeing them. Just that human connection is something that, I don't know, we get so little of.
And maybe need more. Yeah.
I think we all need more.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes me think of Bowling Alone.
Yeah.
Bowling
Yeah.
Alone.
That's a really,
wow. I have to think.
That's an 80s book. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Bowling
Yeah.
Alone.
I'll add it to my list.
Yeah. So, so Sheila, for you, what do you want from a coach? Like the coaches that you've selected, or the coach that you would like for you?
And I do always have my own coach. I think that is one of those things that is so important as coaches, that maybe two things that are really important is that we are walking our talk, so to speak. And I do that in two ways. First, I do that with mentoring and coaching supervision for myself, which I'm an International Coaching Federation certified coach. I'm an MCC. The Master Certified Coach designation is the highest designation. You do need to renew your credential every 3 years. And when you go from the Associate Certified Coach, the first level, every renewal, you need to have 10 hours of mentor coaching. So really getting that feedback and mentorship on advancing your coaching skill. You need those 10 hours when you go from ACC to PCC, which is Professional Certified Coach, the second level. And you need those 10 hours when you apply from Professional Certified Coach, the second level, up to that Master Certified Coach. And then once you have your MCC, you renew every 3 years with continuing education, which is great, but there's no expectation stated or nowhere where you have to submit that proof that you are getting mentoring on your coaching, that you are partaking in coaching supervision either. So it's a choice in that respect, that there's no one checking that. So I do that. And also I have a coach. I've always had a coach throughout my professional coaching career, and that does feel so important. I love when some of my newer coaching students and they're practicing coaching will say, gosh, I know we're doing all this practice coaching with our coaching partners and I'm running out of things to be coached on. I'm thinking, well, I could definitely lend you some because I have so many things that I need to be coached on. So sometimes just showing them that reminding them that vulnerability and authenticity unlocks that for them too. So I am working with a coach very often. And what I'm looking for in working with my coach is probably a lot of how I work on showing up for my own coachees. But that balance of support and challenge is the biggest thing that I'm looking for. Someone who I can connect with. So someone who I feel has that empathy. I think that's the human connection piece that's going to keep at least a big part of our coaching work protected from the robots for now, right? And bringing that blend of compassionate support, but also that challenge and that pushing, helping me to marinate in my own thoughts. Just so that, as I say, that I love giving people the gift of being able to, pause and reflect. I notice how quickly I get caught up in the whitewater rapids of business and work and life. And I need that invitation to pause and reflect and slow down. And that's one of those authentic and vulnerable things to admit for myself. It's something that I love to be able to bring and inspire and invite in my clients. And it's something that I personally struggle with often. So
Nice.
that's what I look for in my coach.
Really nice. So one of the things we do want to ask is, what are 3 resources? They could be books, Dave is inclined to ask for poems, but you don't have to have poetry. But any 3 resources that you would recommend people go, you know what, this is well worth your time to spend reading or hearing or listening.
Yeah, I am a huge consumer of information. So there are a number of LinkedIn groups right now that are in the space of technology and AI. Um, Too many to name, and there's so many that are specific around your interests and your industry and your area, and just curating some fantastic, resources on a daily basis, weekly cadence. So I do recommend. That's such a good reminder. There's free resources, so not everything has to be paid consumption. Free resources. I think from a resource perspective, I love reading books, and I don't even like reading them on a Kindle. I still like purchasing the book and holding it in my hand. The one that I go back to, two that I go back to all the time. Brene Brown was already mentioned here. My copy, I don't have it here to hold up and show you, but my copy of Dare to Lead has tabs in it. It has folded pages. It has highlight in it. It's such an inspirational book for me that I go back to over and over. Immunity to Change is the other one. So, we're talking, 2000s. But this Immunity Change, Keegan and Leahy, such an amazing book. It resonates with every fiber of my being and why coaching is so important. What keeps me in a job, why we do what we do, why I need my own coach, right? Is this concept of, as human beings, we're wired to actually build up an immunity to change. And how can we work through that with a coach or even ourselves? I love Immunity to Change. And then the most recent book that I read, I think it just came out this month, that I absolutely loved, called The Red Helicopter. I don't know if either of you heard of this. A parable for our times, leading change with kindness. And it's a story, a narrative about how an experience in someone's childhood of getting this red helicopter and change, and how that's carried through their entire life, and how we need to bring more kindness into the change equation. So, I don't know, I'm getting tingly as I say it. I just finished it this week. Fantastic read.
That's good. That's really, yeah. Well, now's the time, Dave. You want to give some of your reflections and thoughts?
I would, except my mind is up in the red helicopter. I love that. And I love that it's a parable. So thank you so much.
Not quite poetry, Dave. Hopefully that's
it
help you a little
satisfies.
bit.
Yeah. It's very interesting because, we talk a lot about books and I listen to books on tape and I really enjoy it. And then I also like, we talk about like, all right, what do people want to read? Right. What's actually going to be helpful? Like thinking about signing books to coaches is always interesting. Like what's actually going to help, and I often think like dealing with your own stuff and disrupting your thinking and making you more curious sometimes has as much or more value than here are the 5 steps to coaching, right? Or so I love that you embody that and you embrace it. And my reflection, first, Sheila, it is fabulous to meet you. There's nothing better than hanging out with people that have the same similar purpose and similar principles and values. And I really, I would want to be in your coaching class. I like the balance of things that you mentioned, like how in particular, like how do you create that space for somebody to explore deeper than they have of what they want, like what's important to them, as opposed to skating across the surface of goals or other people's expectations. So thank you so much for embodying that.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, Sheila, thank you for the time. And one of the things that sort of was the biggest sort of jump, biggest E on the eye chart was this idea that you can be kind and like help people through change as well. I don't know if that was really, but I don't know if that's the intent of the red helicopter, but it's this idea that one, I'm a human being and I can't leave that out of the equation. And especially in coaching, I can't sort of it can't be sort of process oriented. It's just humanity oriented. And I think I really need just a reminder of that these are people that we're dealing with. That if I really don't care enough, I need to ask myself that as a question, as a coach. Hey, am I really being in service of my coachee, or am I doing something that's more self-centered, asking questions because I want to know, rather than being in service of their agenda? And you had said at the beginning, like, humanity and vulnerability. That is a really novel concept to experience from a coach, even from a professor. It can be just very like, this is really refreshing and different. And we want that from our coaches, and we want the coachees, and we want them to experience that. So thank you. Thanks for sharing everything you shared. One of the things that we did actually want to share with you, maybe Sheila, if someone was interested in getting in touch with you in some way, how would they do it? I know you have a YouTube channel. We'll actually put that in the episode notes that you can actually watch that. I totally recommend Sheila's videos on the competencies, the ICF competencies, if you're not familiar with those. But is there any other way that anybody can get in touch with you, Sheila?
Yeah, so probably my website would be the best place. So Sheila at professionalsuccesscoaching.com. And I do have some additional resources on the competencies and growing in your coaching skill set on there. And then a couple other resources that individuals can get about finding that career path, kind of along those lines of moving into design and not just falling into default. But as careers change so much, we're going to have to constantly be making decisions about how we keep in alignment with what's most important to us, not just the title or an industry or a role. So those resources are there too.
Great. Thanks. Dave?
One, thank you so much. And I always feel like these conversations are like a droplet in the pond, and I need another like 6 hours. So Matt, it's okay if we go 6 more hours?
Maybe.
No, but I would love to continue this conversation, Sheila. But to keep this podcast going, I have to share this message now. Are you feeling stuck or overwhelmed? Character Matters Coaching and Consulting provides leadership coaching and consulting to empower you to overcome obstacles and reach your full potential. Visit charactermatters.us.com to learn more about their transformative coaching and how to get connected to Matt for your organization. How do you do, Matt?
That was great, Dave. Thank you. Thank you again, Sheila. We really appreciate you participating in our podcast. Really glad to have you here. And until next time, have a great day.